I am not the same person I was a year ago. And I owe it all to this program. Not only has this program helped my speech, but it's helped me become a whole person, a more giving person, a more caring person. See, guys, prior to this program, I was a toxic person, all right? Years and years of not being able to express myself corroded my soul. And I sincerely mean that. And it all started in childhood. I started stuttering when I was about 5 or 6. And I remember being jealous of my brother, who was a year younger than me, who had a silver tongue. He can make friends with anyone. And I couldn't, I mean, I had friends, but I couldn't do it the way he did it. My brother was like a young JFK, like he was smooth, Bill Clinton, whoever your favorite politician is, that's who he was, all right? And yeah, I just remember being very scared of talking to authority figures, my coaches, my peers, and I just remember being scared all the time. And I remember to me, stuttering was like a ninja, right? And I've used this analogy before, but it was like a ninja that would appear out of the darkness and, cut me up and then disappear. It would never kill me, but it would just cut me up, lacerate me, and then disappear. And just reappear, disappear, reappear over and over again. And I was just scared. I was in fight or flight mode all the time, on edge. And now I'm going to talk about certain painful memories. I don't want to do I started here, this is my life, fact. I'm just going to emphasize the very painful memories so you guys relate, okay? So in school, I wasn't really affected by the stuttering or blocking so much until senior year of high school, when I was taking Spanish, and I failed Spanish by 2 points, mind you, because I started blocking and stuttering during the final exam, which was an oral exam. You have to demonstrate that you know the words. And I knew the words, I knew them, but they just wouldn't come out. They were stuck in here, kind of like a dolphin that gets stuck in like a fishing net, right? They're stuck in there, couldn't get out. And I remember the look my teacher gave me, because it was a look I had seen a lot growing up. It was that look of puzzlement, of being befuddled, confused. I was trying to get the words out, and she was like, and then she grew impatient, like, come on. And that just exacerbated it. And then I really felt the effects during college, when I could not approach professors when I needed help. And I couldn't raise my hand in class because I was scared I was going to have a block. And I failed a lot of classes I could have easily passed otherwise. And it took me longer to graduate than it should have. All right. And then work. Let's talk about work. I had a hard time working. I had a hard time communicating to my bosses, my coworkers, customers. I pretty much had to take what I was given. I couldn't ask for time off. I couldn't ask for a raise, or if I did ask for a raise, I'd get shut down. I would block while I was making the request. And it was a dismal experience, to say the least. But one of the most painful memories from work was when I worked at a car dealership for 2 years. Now, I don't know if some of you have ever been in a car dealership. Perhaps you have, perhaps you haven't. But just imagine this. You're going in there and you're feeling very uncomfortable, right? Because you're nervous, you're scared. The salesman's going to screw you over. You're going to get swindled, right? And you're nervous just being in there. Well, it's like that for other people that work there, but tenfold. Car dealerships are stress factories, and it goes from the top to the bottom, from the owner to the managers, to the salesmen, to the guys in finance, to the mechanics, to the guys that even wash the cars. Everyone's stressed out. Everyone. It's this big misery factory, just miserable. And much to my chagrin, I spent most of my time on the phone trying to make appointments to bring people to the dealership to sell them cars, right? And you guys know that the phone is the stutterer's Achilles heel. I was horrible on the phone. I was just wretched on the phone. And needless to say, I sold probably 48 cars, which sounds like a lot, but if you average it out over a 2-year period, that's 2 a month, right? That's not a lot. That is not a lot at all. And one of the most painful memories comes to mind when I think of my time in the dealership was when one day we were given these new sales scripts to memorize during the sales meeting. And we had to, read and rehearse the scripts with each other. And then at the very end, we had to give a presentation in front of the group, right? And the manager asked for volunteers. And I raised my hand because I knew the script. I knew it. And then I went up there and I had the longest block I've ever had to date up there. And then I stuttered and blocked and stammered on every single word. And there's not even a word to describe how embarrassed I felt. And I remember when I finished, someone mockingly did this, the slow clap, right? And they did that sarcastically. And then other people went up there, they did a little presentation, it was over. And then afterwards, my manager pulled me aside and was like, Steve, what the hell was that? See, privy to that point, I was a covert stutterer. I was very good hiding it, and I would be quiet a lot of the time. And I said, well, sir, I stutter sometimes. And then he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, well, Steve, I used to stutter too. And I was relieved. And he said, yeah, Steve, I used to stutter when I was 2. Asshole, get out of here. Yeah. I wanted to stab him in the eyes with a pen, but I didn't because I needed the job. And there's nothing I could do about it. The only good thing that came out of the car business was I met my friend Will, who was from New York. He worked in the comedy business. And we were talking about comedy, and I played him some of my stuff. And he said, Steve, you need to get out of here and move to New York. So that's what I did. Now I'm going to talk about comedy. Okay. Now, people think that comedians are these happy-go-lucky people, hunky-dory. No, they are some of the worst people on the planet. They are some of the most jealous, insecure, vile, horrid people on the planet. And when you're in that environment, it was even more cutthroat than the car business. And you're just around this negativity all the time at open mics and shows and whatnot. So here I am in New York. I'm in Cutthroat Island, basically. And I'm trying to make my bones there. I'm trying to pay my dues. And I did get better at comedy, but I was hit or miss. When my speech was fluent on stage, I was the best comic there. But when it wasn't, it was the worst feeling on earth. I can't even tell you how many times I wanted to just blow my head off after some of those nights. They were just brutal. So just imagine this, everyone. Just imagine this. You're having your worst blocking incident on a stage in a dark room with lights beaming into your eye. You can't see anyone, but you can hear their judgment in you. And you can hear like little comments like, what's going on with this guy? This guy having a heart attack. What is going on? I feel bad for him. You hear things like that, right? One of the most painful memories from comedy was this. This happened probably 3 months before the pandemic. So I was on this show and we were waiting for the host to show up. And the host was running late, stuck on the subway or something, right? And the show had to go on. And so I took it upon myself to host. And so I set up the PA, the microphone, the levels, all that. People come in, and then I get the list of the comics and their names, right? And I go up there and I start doing my act a little bit, and it was fine. But then when I go to read the first comic's name, I stutter and I block and I just completely mispronounce the name as well, right? And then the comic comes up and just crucifies me for 5 minutes, right? You know, saying how stupid I am, saying, oh, hey, give it up for Steve. It's his first time reading tonight. And just imagine everyone in the entire venue just laughing at you, not because they think you're funny, but because they think you're a moron, you know, slow, whatever. And I can't leave because I just volunteered to host, so I'm trapped here. I can't even leave, right? And then I go up there and I butcher the next name. Same thing. Another comic comes up there and just rips me apart. And this happens again and again. Finally, the host arrived, and I ran out there like my hair was on fire. I felt like a monkey that was behind like plexiglass at the zoo, right? And I couldn't leave, and I'm trying to run around, and I can't. And people are taking pictures, they're laughing at me. They want me to act silly and throw feces at them and whatnot. And I'm trapped. And I remember that night, after that performance, feeling so horrible about myself that I got so plastered. I don't even know how I got home that night, quite honestly. I don't. I really don't. And that I almost quit comedy that night, quite honestly. Like I was done with it at that point. And and one more memory from comedy. So this happened a couple months into the pandemic. See, I used to be on a podcast with like 5 other comics, and it was a nightmare for me because it was basically 5 guys with a mic talking over each other in a small group setting, which I never performed well in a podcast or off a podcast in that setting. And episodes were 1 hour long, and I would probably say 1 line per hour. It was a funny line, granted, but just one. And I kept thinking, why am I even on this podcast? But, you know, we had a falling out, we went our separate ways, whatnot. And then 2 months into the pandemic, I was listening to an episode that they had recorded, and they basically made fun of the way I talk for 10 minutes. Now, it's one thing to talk trash about me behind my back, that's fine, whatever. But to hit the record button and send it out in cyberspace was a whole nother matter. And I remember hearing that episode and I saw red. Like I said before, I had the wrath of 1,000 Genghis Khans at that point. If I had had a weapon in my hand, I probably would have done something. Like that's how angry I was. And so the next day, I scoured the internet looking for a cure. Now, let me back up a second. The summer before college, I had tried speech therapy, and it yielded 0, nothing. Some cool jaw exercises and some tongue exercises, but other than that, I didn't get anything from it. Okay. And you know, I've read books on stuttering. I purchased this one course This guy claimed that he could help you stop stuttering and eliminate verbal filler. But when I bought it, it was just a bunch of piano warm-up exercises. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, re, do, ba, 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 ga, 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 ga. Made my voice stronger, but it didn't do jack for my stuttering, right? So finally, I came across Lee's book. And by the way, Lee, I love the cover. The cover was very enticing. And I read the reviews on Amazon, 150 or so of this book is life-changing. This is the real deal, the real McCoy, so on and so forth. And I went to the website, and there was a video of Lee talking about the program, and then there was a chapter of his book. And first I watched the video, and I thought Lee looked cool. I thought he looked like Johnny Cash or something with the hair. You know, I was like, oh man, this guy's cool. All right. Or maybe, you know, Ric Flair or something. And then I read a chapter of his book, and I could tell by the way he had described his experience in the book that he himself had stuttered and beaten it. And this was the first person I had ever heard of who self-cured and who was offering a course on how to do the same. And so I waited a couple weeks before I purchased the course. And once I did, I read the entire book cover to cover out loud like it was suggested. And over that month, my speech got better. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I said, okay, I'm going to implement everything else. I'm going to implement the mind training, the crutches, the self-hypnosis. I'm going to start showing up to the Saturday meetings. Now, granted, I've been coming to these meetings for a year. I haven't showed my face. And, you know, partly because I'm a private person. Also, it's the comedy thing and whatnot. And also, I find it very distracting seeing myself on camera. I can't help but kind of look at myself while I'm talking. So it's a combination of things. But lo and behold, my speech grew better. And then I joined a practice group where I practiced the crutches. Now, mind you, at this point, I no longer wanted to do comedy. I was going to go into real estate business, and I just wanted to improve my speech so I could sell better and make money, travel the world. Ugh, right? But it was during these practice sessions when we were doing the crutches, we were reading out loud, and sometimes we would practice accents and goofy voices and stuff. And I was making, you know, the people laugh in these groups, and it sparked that interest in comedy again. It made me want to do comedy again. And I started doing comedy again about a month ago. And I have to say this, my speech, my fluency, my timing was impeccable. It was so good that it threw me off. And I'm still adjusting to my timing now. I don't stutter, I don't block. Prior to this program, my speech, my comedy was filled with verbal filler, uhs and ums and you knows and likes and just, and truth be told, the verbal filler bothered me more than the stuttering itself. And my speech is unrecognizable now. And I feel I owe it to Lee, everyone here, to continue with comedy and to see what's going to happen with it. I know something's going to happen with it now because I have the experience, I have the timing now. I've always had the jokes, and now it's combining all those and just going out there and doing the work. And I got the results by doing the work day in and day out. You know, I was diligent, I was assiduous. I practiced like my life depended on it, because it did. Because let me tell you this, I wasn't going to talk about this part, but it's part of my story. And I really want to drive home how badly stuttering and blocking can affect a person. So one of my solutions was to just numb myself from the pain, like every day, you know, chemicals, different elixirs, whatnot. I'm not going to get into specifics. It's not important. Point is, I was numbing myself. It's killing myself. because I read somewhere that Winston Churchill achieved fluency by getting wasted all the time. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll do that. And I can honestly say that's a horrible solution. And if you're doing that, don't. There's a better way. So now I just want to give a shout out to John, Kelly, Stephanie, Gary, Son, and most importantly, Asan. So you guys really helped me during the the practice groups. And most importantly, Lee to me is Lee is like the Martin Scorsese to my Robert De Niro, my Bill Belichick to my Tom Brady, and dare I say, my Dr. Dre to my Eminem. I'm not a comedian. I'm a storyteller. I'm an artist. But most importantly, I am a ex-stutter. And even more importantly than that, I'm finally happy.